Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is the Staccato C2 Duo. This is the third Staccato offering that I've done a review on, first being the Staccato P, and then I did the Staccato XC. Now we got to the C2. And when they announced the C2 not too long ago, I was intrigued. Mainly because I'd had some life experiences with compact 1911 style guns, even though this is a 2011. A lot of the internals and the same functionalities, controls remain the same. It just holds more ammunition, and it's got a polymer lower versus a steel, or in some cases aluminum. What intrigued me about it was the fact that someone was offering a double stack 2011 profile gun in a compact size. My experience in the past with guns in this particular footprint, they were 1911s of course, is reliability was questionable for brand to brand, and generally speaking just wasn't there to give me the confidence I would need in order to carry the gun. So even though I'd had good experiences with the Staccato P and the Staccato XC, I was curious to see if that would carry over to the C2. What you're getting in the Staccato C2 is a single action only 2011 profile gun with a standard capacity of 16 rounds, which we'll talk a little bit about. It's a 9mm and it's got a 3.9-inch bull barrel, quoted with a 4-pound trigger press, ambi selectors, or ambi safety I should say, and a traditionally right hand appropriated magazine release. It is optic ready using the Staccato optic system, Dawson fiber optic front, all black rear, and there are multiple plate options available through Staccato if you want to run an RMR or a 509T, and there's also aftermarket plates from other companies such as C&H Precision. If you're not familiar, my review process is 2,000 rounds. I'm going to shoot 2,000 rounds of ammunition through the firearm to get a general feel for the gun. Of course, I could do the round count less than that, but 2,000 rounds gives me what I consider to be a more objective look at the functionality and the reliability of the firearm versus a lower round count. And of course, round count is pretty much arbitrary because I could do 5,000 round reviews, but especially today's ammo prices, that's just not happening. I mounted a 508T for the purposes of the optic review because it came with an RMR/Delta Point footprint plate for the optic system. I went ahead and mounted a 508T because I know it to be a reliable optic for the purposes of the review. Now, one thing that some people are probably looking forward to is the drop tests. However, because I've already done drop tests on the Staccato optic system with the Staccato P and the Staccato XC, there's not going to be any drop tests in this video because I'm confident in their optic mounting system, and realistically that'd be the only reason I would drop a handgun in a handgun review is if I'm testing the optic mounting system, which I've already done twice, so you're not getting that. So what are we really looking at with the Staccato C2? Well, you're getting a compact profile 2011 with a standard capacity of 16 rounds. 16 rounds in a gun of this size is impressive. The weight is also very reasonable. Weighing in at 25 ounces unloaded, it does seat itself as a beefier carry gun. If you're looking for weight savings, this might not be the compact pistol for you, but you're getting a lot of features that people are looking for these days. And not necessarily to be contrarian, but just kind of the way I think about things. In a world where everyone is looking for the lightest and the smallest 9mm with the highest capacity, some people are going to go a slightly different direction and go with something slightly heavier. One of the things that has always appealed to me about the 2011 style of gun is that increased weight helps manage the energy of recoil a little bit better. And the argument can be made by people on the internet, as it will, I'm sure, that 9mm recoil is something you should be able to handle. Absolutely. But the ultimate goal for firearms should be no recoil. So anything that can help me manage recoil is going to be something that I'm necessarily going to pursue. Now, having to remain a little bit more objective than usual, I'm not generally a fan of compact size guns. Back when I figured out that I could carefully and comfortably conceal a full-size handgun, I just carried a full-size handgun. I like the longer grip. The additional muzzle or barrel length, I should say, isn't necessarily something that I'm as concerned about, but I do like the fact that I've got more grip, I've got more purchase on the gun. My hand placement should be specific regardless, but I've got a little bit more room to play with when it comes to gripping the gun, more surface contact, so on and so forth. So it's getting into the very fine analytical things of just how I want to build my grip around a gun, but full sizes usually do it for me. The C2's grip is Not the same profile, not the same controls, not the same angle, but it feels, as far as surface area, to me very similar to like a full-size Beretta. I feel like I get about the same amount of hand on the hand gun, and I'm a big fan of the Beretta. So a little bit of nostalgia there, maybe a little bit of comparison that isn't necessarily a comparison. So maybe that's me just being subjective about the review itself. But I didn't find that, unlike other compact handguns, the C2 didn't give me the real estate, if you will, that I wanted when it came to the master grip of the primary hand. And then when I bring my support hand onto the gun, I still got room to get the contact that I want to get on the frame of the gun. Optic mounting is simple and intuitive. Still a little bit of complaint that I have carrying over from some of the other Staccatos. Their optic system, I feel like it could sit a little lower than it does as far as plate width. But I do understand, just because they're focusing more across the line on hard use for their guns, I do understand why they choose to go with the plate thickness that they do, but if I'm gonna have a complaint, that's gonna be it. Now on to the review. What do I think about the gun? Well, 2,000 rounds. First thing I'm gonna do is just get a general feel for the gun. So the first 500 rounds, I just use the gun in the way that I would use a handgun for my normal practice, mainly from concealment with this gun. I didn't do a lot of duty carry practice with it, because I don't feel like this gun's primary use would be a duty gun for patrol use or something like that. And a lot of you guys viewing this video probably just carry concealed. You don't spend a lot of time carrying from a Safariland or a battle belt unless you're maybe on the range. So working it from concealment, there is a change of manual arms coming over from a striker-fired handgun. My everyday carry is a Glock. But I make an easy transition to the 2011 style gun, because to me the safety procedures work a lot like what they do on an AR. I've still got a manual safety. I've got to sweep before I can engage the trigger, and I'm going to treat those safeties, that ambi safety selector on the C2, the same way I would treat the safety selector on an AR, as far as purpose, intent, and use, and when I'm going to activate it, when I'm not going to activate it. There's some slight differences, like you can't obviously safe the 2011 for reloading purposes, but a lot of the same mentality and the same approach to safety and safety selection carries over. The trigger is really the best part. Throughout the 2,000 rounds, I just was pleasantly comfortable with the C2's trigger, because it's so comparable to the triggers that they're offered on their other guns. They say 4 pounds, but it's a single action straight pull. So it doesn't feel like a 4-pound trigger to me. Comparable to a 4-pound trigger on like a striker fire or a double action only or something like that. The C2 just has a smooth, repeatable, almost boring trigger press. Very minimal creep, very minimal reset, and the gun just runs. After the first 500 rounds of getting a really good feel for the gun, we come to the burn down. No exception here. Burn down, I'm going to put 500 rounds through the firearm as quickly as possible to see if that accelerated rate of fire would identify any issues that I wouldn't see shooting the same 500 rounds over a much longer period of time. So 4 minutes versus a week or a year. Here's your burn down. One of the big concerns we have with the 2011 family of guns and the 1911 and just that general design is accelerated round count can lead to issues. And this is problems I've had on personal guns that I've owned in the past. They run fine until they get a little fouled, a little dirty, a little hot. So once I got to like 200, 300 rounds, I'm thinking, okay, this has gone well on Staccatos in the past, but this is a totally different model. Am I going to have any issues once the gun hits that magical round count of 200, 300, whatever? That 500 rounds went first to last round without any issues. No stovepiping, consistent lockbacks on mags, which could be a magazine-related issue, but I feel like it's worth mentioning because I'm using almost all STI mags, including the 3 16-round mags that come with the gun. So first to last round, the gun performed as I would want it to. It was boring and it was reliable, which is exactly what I'm looking for in the burn down. Then there's accuracy. What kind of accuracy can we hope to expect from a 3.9-inch bull barrel 9mm 2011? Well, I zero at 25 yards, get the gun bagged down, shooting from a bench rest support. Here's a 5-round group I fired for the zero distance, show you just the general accuracy of the gun with this particular ammunition, shooting 124 grain gold dot. If you weren't expecting that kind of accuracy from a compact 2011, then you obviously don't know. The Staccatos generally, especially with that bull barrel, do provide a consistent degree of accuracy over comparable guns in the same size, same barrel length. Very happy with the accuracy. The thing is very easy to zero. The optic, of course, helps. I'm not a big iron sight user anymore. I still practice them and maintain proficiency, but I'm more interested in that red dot. One of the things the red dot really does for me when it comes to reviews is it shows me how the gun behaves in recoil. And through the next 1,000 rounds of the review process, that's what I was mainly paying attention to, is just how usable the gun is, how applicable it would be for realistic carry. Some people might think, well, in today's modern day and age of modern handguns, striker-fired Glocks and CZs and M&Ps and FNs and all that, that there is no place for a 2011, or that the cost of the 2011 doesn't really justify it, even if it does come in a size profile that would make it more concealable. Everything about this gun is about the inherent accuracy and about the trigger. Very few guns provide the same consistency and ease of trigger press as what you're going to get from a 2011 style handgun. And the gunsmith fitting, factory fitting offered through Staccato gives us a trigger that is consistently heavy, so there's heavy relatively speaking for the concerns of safety, because a lot of people do worry about the single action only triggers. That's why manual safeties are such a big deal, grip safeties are such a big deal on these guns. But I've got a press on a trigger and a poundage of a trigger that almost allows me, if I had to almost outrun the gun. It lets me shoot, and I guess this is the best way to say it, I can run a 2011 trigger faster than any other trigger that's out there that I'm currently aware of. That's always been the big appeal to me. Even though I got away from 1911s a long time ago, I keep coming back to the 2011, and I keep coming back to what Staccato offers, because that trigger is consistent from gun to gun to gun to gun to gun. This being my third iteration of one of their products, and the trigger kind of feels like home in a way. And I know that's completely esoteric, but I think it's important to have a little bit of an emotional connection to the firearm you're using and get to know it in a way so you can get consistent, reliable results, and the trigger definitely allows that to happen. It's light, but it's not so light that I'm going to run the risk of surprising myself with one of those presses. Then there's the overall size profile and the ergonomics of the gun. It comes standard with a 16-round magazine, but you can throw the 17 or the 20-rounders in there as well. And carrying this, I'd carry a 16 in it, and my spare would be a 20-round magazine. I've got that flared magwell, but it's not so flared that it would cause any potential printing issues. Although I gotta be honest, printing from the magwell is a concern for depending on body position of carry. That type of printing is more of a concern for people who carry hip than people who carry appendix, but it's still a very real concern, and I don't want like a gamer or a super competition size magwell on my carry gun. Magwells are great. They're not super great if you're carrying a flush magazine in them for concealed carry purposes, and the reason is the magwell is great for the reload. It doesn't help you really at all until you've expended that first magazine of ammunition, or you run into a situation where you have to take out a partially shot magazine to perform a malfunction clearance, such as a double feed. I can't get my fingers in there on a flush floor plate as easily as I can if there is no flared magwell. So a lot of people, well, it comes up sometimes. People be like, well, why don't you like flared magwells? And that's exactly my reason. Unless I'm carrying a +3 or +5 in the gun to go, I'm not really a big fan of that magwell, because the reload happens after X amount of rounds, or in the unlikely event that I encounter a malfunction that requires removal of the magazine. So on a duty gun, duty carry, +3, +5, flared magwell, great. On a concealed carry gun, I'm going to be carrying that OEM flush floor plate magazine, probably not something I'm going to want. But with their magazines, base plates included, I can still get a decent grip on the mag if I had to strip it and perform a double feed clearance or something like that. The cool thing is, after 2,000 rounds, I didn't have any malfunctions, so I didn't really get to test that except in practice. So final thoughts on the Staccato C2. it's not for everybody. If you don't want to carry a 2011, then this is probably not going to appeal to you. But if you do want to carry a 2011 and you're looking for something that has a smaller footprint versus a Staccato P or guns in that size profile, the Staccato C2 is an excellent choice. It's a reliable gun, it's optics ready, good ergonomics, good controls that we'd expect from a 2011. Everything functions and feels, and it just feels like a very precise gun, because it is a very precise gun. And I've got 16 rounds of ammunition, so it has comparable round capacity versus other guns in the same profile double stack magazines. And I'm getting probably one of the better factory triggers that you could possibly hope for in a carry profile gun. Yes, you could use it for duty purposes if that's something you were into, or you could get a threaded barrel for it and run a comp on it and not gain a lot of length over what you'd get running like a Staccato P or one of the larger guns. But overall, you're getting a great little gun that's not so little, has a lot of capacity to it, and that added weight helps offset some of the snappiness, recoil behavior that we sometimes get from compact sized polymer guns. So even though this thing does have a polymer frame, grip surface, it still has enough weight coming from the other parts of the gun to give us an offset for that recoil. So even in the review process, I shot 115, but I also shot a lot of 124, 124 plus P. It's not as snappy as I may have expected it to be getting into it. Very, very happy with the gun, and I would recommend it to anyone who's seeking out that particular operation system. Single action only, 1911/2011 style controls, and a size profile that's going to conceal very well. Definitely something you should be looking at. And as far as cost goes, you do get what you pay for. This is going to be more expensive than some other brand, I'm sure. But there aren't too many guns in this category for this size that are competitive and provide the same degree of quality. So I would highly recommend the Staccato C2. I'm Eric Count with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.